So let's talk about S3. And when you start with S3, you have to start with buckets. So buckets is basically where you are going to put your objects. And so see buckets as giant directories and files as objects. The buckets must have a globally unique name. So that's a bit confusing with AWS S3. You will see it is a regional service, but your bucket must have a globally unique name. Buckets will be defined at the region level, and there's a naming convention. And there's no uppercase, no underscore, from 3 to 63 characters long, not an IP, and it must start with a lowercase or a number. So basically, you need to remember these all along. And the bucket, when I say globally unique name, that doesn't just mean in your account. That means globally across all the AWS accounts. So when we create a bucket, we see we have to choose a name that no one else in the world has taken. Thankfully, we'll find one. So we're about objects. Objects, they're files, and they're identified by a key. A key is a full path. It's not just a file name. So if we have a bucket and we have myfile.txt, well, that's the key. That's the file name, right? But if we have a very long by bucket, my folder 1, another folder, myfile.txt, the key is the entire full path, okay, with the slashes. So all the way from my folder 1 to myfile.txt. So there's no concepts of directories within buckets, but the UI of Amazon S3 will trick you to think otherwise. But just so you know, there's no concept of directories. There's just a very, very long key name, okay? And it's okay for key names to have slashes. Now, object values is what goes in the file, so that's the content of the file, and the max size you can have is 5 terabytes, okay? So pretty big files. But if you start uploading a file that is more than 5 gigabytes, okay, all the way to 5 terabytes, then you cannot upload it unless you use something called multi-part upload, and that is quite a popular question at the exam. Your objects can come with metadata, and metadata is whatever you want. It's a value of key value pairs. And tags also to define your objects. You can have up to 10 tags, and they're again key value pairs. Tags are very useful for security and lifecycle. Finally, we'll see this in the next lecture, but there's a version ID if we enable versioning. So how about we just stop right here and get more familiar with objects and files into a hands-on. So in my Amazon dashboard, I will go and type S3 in the console, and so we go to the S3 home. Now, as you can see on the top right, it says global. So S3 does not require a region selection, but when you do create a bucket, it is basically attached to your region, and that can be quite confusing, okay? But it is a global, so that means that any region you are into, you can create your S3 buckets. So let's go ahead and create a bucket. I'll go clear and create a bucket, and now you need to create a bucket name. So if we create a bucket name, for example, I call it test, I'm pretty sure someone in the world will have a bucket named test. So if I click on next, it will say bucket name already exists. So even though that bucket name did not exist in my account, it exists in someone else's account. And so I cannot use a bucket name that is already used by someone else. But if I say the bucket of Stéphane, probably no one else will have taken that name before. Now, if I go to the region, I choose wherever my bucket is going to be created. So as you can see, these are all the AWS regions that we have by default. And I recommend you choose something close to you. For me, it's EU Paris. You can copy the settings from another bucket, but for now, we're fine. We'll click on next, and we'll see there's a bunch of options around versioning, service access logging, tags, object level logging, encryption, etc., etc. We will do this in the next lecture, so for now, we'll just click on next. Finally, the permissions of our bucket. Basically, we can see that myself, I'm the owner, and so I can read, write objects, read, write object permissions, okay? For now, we do not grant public access to this bucket. That's a recommended way. And we do not grant Amazon Log Delivery Group to write access to this bucket. So everything looks good. We click on next, and basically all these are defaults. So here we can review the bucket creation. The bucket name is the bucket Stéphane, and the region is in EU Paris. I'll go ahead and click on create buckets. And as you can see, the bucket has been provisioned. We can see in this little console that the region is specified as a column, as well as the access. Right now it says not public. So that's good. Now I go ahead in there and I need to create a file. So basically it says the bucket is empty. Upload new objects to get started. So what I can do here is click on upload. And here I can select a file. So I will choose a file, add a file, and I have a coffee.jpg file. I'll click on next. Here we can see some permissions. So as you can see, myself as the owner, I'm able to read and write that file and so on. I'll just click on next. I'll leave everything as the default. Here we can set some properties around the storage class. We'll see this in the next lecture. Encryption as well, another lecture. Metadata, as I said, headers, tags. Okay, so we can set a bunch of things. And then next, we can review everything that was set. So currently everything's at the default. It's pretty empty, but this is enough for us. We'll click on upload. Now, as you can see, my coffee file has been opened and uploaded. And now we can go and click on it. And we get a little pop-up on the right-hand side showing the overview of the file, including the size, the expiration date, the properties, etc., etc. Now we can do a bunch of things with it. We can re-download it by clicking on download, and that's great. Or we can right-click on this file, right-click it, and click on open. When we do this, we can see that the coffee image displays, right? That works great. We can see our image with coffee, and that actually makes me want to have a coffee. But if we go back here and click on this file, and then click on the link right here, and open it in the new tab, we see that we get a access denied exception. That's because I am not allowed to view that file using that link. That's because my bucket is a private bucket, and I'm trying to access it from the URL right here. So there's a small distinction between opening up a file by right-clicking and doing open, in which case it will evaluate my permission as an AWS user, versus clicking on that link on the right, on this here, which is basically going to be a public link. So a small distinction here, we'll see what that means in the next lecture, but just to give you an idea that there's two ways to open a file in AWS. There is the right-click open, or there is using the link on the right-hand side. One gives you a working experience, one doesn't work. Another thing you can do is create a folder. As I said, folders are a bit virtual in Amazon S3. They makes you appear like you have folders, but basically they just create a full key path. So I can have an images in here, open up this and upload a file again. I can upload the very same file and just click on upload to be a bit quicker. So now basically we have two keys in our bucket. We have coffee.jpg at the very root of our bucket. And then in the image directory, we also have a coffee.jpg. So that's another full key. The key is images/coffee.jpg. So I hope that makes sense. And finally, this is a bucket. So you're able to do a bunch of stuff. You can right click on the file and rename it, delete it, cut and paste, like you would in every basically folder online. Okay. So let's go ahead and delete, for example, our images folder. So I'll right click on it, click on delete. It'll say it will delete everything. Okay, please delete, and we're done. So that's about it, just to get started with Amazon S3. Obviously, there's a bunch of things we still need to see, but so far we've seen the basic operations around creating a bucket and creating files and viewing these files. Hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next lecture.